I talked about a little bit about being nervous, and part of the reason I wanted to tell you about that is because I don't want you to have a mistaken understanding about the process of being involved in engaging others. And I think it's easy for some people to think, well, that's Koukl. He knows what he's doing. He's done it a lot, and it's easy for him, but it's hard for me. Well, I do kind of know what I'm doing, and I have done it a lot, and because of that, it is easier for me, but it isn't just easy all the time, and I'm a human being like anybody else, and so, I have my moments. And I'm in telling you that and just being transparent about that, I'm hoping that you identify more with me, and that encourages you. Because if I can have my moments, like you have your moments, but I can still make something of it, then maybe you can make something of it too, that kind of thing. But there was something else I thought about last night as I was getting ready for the talk, and the people were filing in, probably 75 to 100 students there at Marshall. And I was talking to someone else about how he mentioned sometimes all the atheists kind of sit together and then all the Christians sit together if there's a significant contingent of atheists. And I've been at places like at Purdue when they're all there in their T-shirts, and all in one section. And so it's almost like one group is afraid of the other. They don't want to mingle. And, of course, there is this natural tendency to want to hang out with people that are like yourself. And so if you were going to a skeptics meeting just to kind of see what it was like, and we talked to somebody last week or the week before last about doing that very thing, and then we had a caller who does it, if we were going to go there and we saw another Christian that we recognized that was there among all the skeptics, we'd probably migrate over to that person and kind of huddle together just for a sense of a common cause and maybe emotional protection or something. So that's a natural kind of thing. However, and I mentioned this to him, there was something that I learned, I guess it's about 5 years ago now, when I had my radio debate on Hugh Hewitt's national radio program for 3 hours with with Skeptic Magazine's Michael Shermer. And I spent some significant time prepping for that, and I was quite nervous about it. And in order to prep properly, I realized what the best thing for me to do was not just read his books, which I did, and I got a sense of his ideas and a sense of the way he might develop his own thoughts, and therefore this is my intel, this is my prep, this is now I know where he's going, the moves he's going to make, I can develop responses and be ready with them. But there was something else that was psychological that was going on at the same time, because there was a debate that he had done with Dinesh D'Souza, and it was also on Hugh Hewitt's program, and I had a copy of that, and I thought, well, the best way to prep for this is to listen to how Michael Shermer interacted with Christian Dinesh D'Souza in the same kind of format for 2 hours or 3 hours. And then I can kind of get his rhythm a little bit, and I can get his way of thinking more so than I had from maybe just reading his book. And I had gone to a couple of debates that he'd done as well. But still, this would be good. And I remember queuing up the MP3 with a little fear and trepidation because Michael Shermer was the founder of Skeptic Magazine. He's written all these books. He's a famous American atheist, maybe the most well-known American atheist, maybe not the most accomplished, but the most well-known, popular atheist. And you know how it is? when you turn on the TV or you listen to the radio and you know somebody that you completely disagree with who's really smart who's going to be up there, and you have this little chill go down your spine, and the chill represents your concern that they're going to say something that you can't deal with. And so part of you just wants to forget about it. We'll just turn it off, and maybe I won't hear that thing that might shake me up a little bit. Well, that's not a good idea, actually, though I sympathize entirely with the sentiment. But that's what I was feeling a little bit as I'm loading up my MP3 with the debate, and I have to listen to it because I'm thinking, I'm going to listen to this, and I'm going to hear this confident, intelligent PhD in sociology who is very hostile to Christianity intellectually, but is actually kind of a nice guy in the way he talks and maneuvers, and he's likable, and he's nice-looking, and he's, that's a formidable foe. And so I had my own anxieties about listening. And so but because I, had to man up, I'm going to face this guy on national radio. I might as well listen. So I turned it on and listened. And I listened, and I listened, and I listened, and I finished the entire 2 or 3 hour debate. And it was helpful. I wrote things down, and I kind of had a sense of stuff. And it was a little bit hard at first. I mean, it was that feeling, I just would rather not have to face this kind of feeling. And then I was done. And I thought to myself, well, that was a little uncomfortable, but it wasn't that bad. And he wasn't as smart as I thought he'd be. I mean, that's kind of a way of putting it, and I don't mean to be condescending, but you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you expect a whole lot more, and then when you hear it, you think, well, that wasn't really that good in terms of substance. Now, his style is good, and his delivery is good, and he's fast on his feet, and he can turn a phrase and that kind of stuff. Maybe I'll listen to it again. And I did. And so I listened to the whole thing again. And there was also, the second time, this little discomfort, but not as much as the first time. And by the time I'd finished listening through the whole thing, I felt even better. And so I listened to it again. Now, I wrote about this not long after the debate, which I think went reasonably well for our side. Let's put it that way. I always am a little bit overly critical about these kinds of things, and when I go back and listen, I think, oh, gosh, why did you say that? Why did you do this? Why didn't you go there? However, I think on balance it was good. It's available, too, somewhere. I don't know. You can probably find it on YouTube or it's not videoed, but maybe YouTube's not the right place. But it's out there. What was I going to say? Whenever I do these kinds of things, I'm always, wish I could have done better. However, I realized something in the process, though, in my preparation for this. And here's the principle. I was saying that I wrote a piece about it. You can find it on our website. It was a mentoring letter. So I wrote one of these mentoring letters about what I'm saying right now. And here's the principle that I got. This is what my takeaway. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to refer to our opponents here as the enemy just to make a point. I don't think of them in a hostile way. But here's the way the aphorism goes. The closer you get to the enemy, the less frightening he looks. The closer you get to the enemy, the less frightening he looks. So the more that I listened to Michael Shermer talk, the less ominous he seemed to me, the less scary and frightening he seemed to me. And the more I thought, well, I can answer that. Or, wait a minute, let me think about, that's something's wrong with that. And I could say this about that, and wait, I got to check that one out, but I can come back. The more he talked, the more vulnerable he seemed, the less frightening he seemed. And And I think this is something you can take to the bank. And it also underscores the value of a tactical approach. Because if you're taking a tactical approach and you're using the questions, and your first step of your tactic, your game plan, is to simply gather information, you're getting intel. You're just getting the lay of the land. You're asking some form of the question, what do you mean by that? You're drawing people out. You're finding out what's going on, what people think. You're not putting your own thing out there. You're not trying to persuade them. You're a student. Well, the more you let them talk, the more you get an understanding of where they're coming from, and they just seem less frightening. Now, last year I was at UT. No, it was in Texas, Corpus Christi. Anyway, there was a fellow that pushed back pretty hard at me from the gallery during the Q&A, professor. I mean, he was one of these guys. I'm talking to one person, and the professor's interrupting. He's up in the top, and, they have these kind of slanted rooms, like a gallery. It's a lecture hall. And he's up there shouting at me and making his own contribution. We're not engaging, but boom, 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 and he's interrupting. Well, that's kind of rude. But you know what? I did get to talk to him a little bit. I finished with one person, and I dealt with him because I didn't want him interrupting everything. And when I say I dealt with him, I didn't put him down or shut him up. I just addressed him. I let him talk, and I tried to address it. But what I'm saying is, my first encounter with him, it sounded a little bit rough, a little bit, he was being a little obnoxious, and he's pushy. And it turned out, after we were done, he came down to chat with me, and he was a sweetheart. I mean, he was a cream puff. He was he wanted to go out for a drink with me, and just hang out. I wasn't able to do that, but for a lot of reasons, but it just goes to show, when they're out there at a distance and they're far away, they look a lot scarier than when they get down close and you start to interact with them, and it looks like a whole different situation. This happens all the time to me on the airplane. I'll see somebody coming down the aisle, and they're walking, and I got a seat next to me that's empty, and I'm looking at this person. I'm thinking, I have nothing in common with this person, and I'll never be able to talk to them about the Lord. And I'm praying for them, and I'm praying, Lord, don't let that person sit next to me. But, of course, that is, like many of my prayers, didn't get answered. And they sit right down next to me, and so I just use my game plan. I start to draw the person out. I ask a few questions, and all of those barriers seem to evaporate almost instantly. So here's the deal. We got to go to break, and we'll get your calls, but here's the deal. The closer you get to your enemy, that is the person you perceive to be your enemy, the closer you get to them, the less frightening they become. The more real they are, the more human they are, and especially if you get closer to them in a genial fashion. I was talking about Michael Shermer. I was getting closer to him by listening to his teachings. So I got so used to his voice didn't frighten me anymore. It's a good thing, because I was going to be sitting next to him listening to his voice for 3 hours on the radio. But no, I got used to that. But in other cases, though, you go up, shake hands, hi. Like in this event, everybody's sitting on opposite sides. There's the atheists over there. Well, go over there and shake their hands. And I've done that before. Hi, Greg Koukl. Glad you came. What's your name? What are you studying? All right, good. Is this your buddy? What's your name? All right, great. You Skeptics Club? All of you guys? Holy cow. Wow. This must be a big event for you guys. Okay, you just make small talk. And it's not belligerent. It's friendly. And I'm telling you, the edges come off. And if you what did Jesus say? Make friends, or I think it was Jesus, make friends with your enemy before you go to the judge, and maybe you settle out of court kind of thing. Well, there's a similarity here. You're making friends on the front end, and if you settle out of court, as it were, just easier when you have to actually get down to business. All right, something to think about.